What are you doing?
Evening the odds.
When the mother or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am.
Welcome to the manor of Batman! I set a trap and you sprang gloriously!
There is no savior. No more hope. No more Batman. I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Welcome back, Bat fans and fans of Off-Panel, Off-Topic. I am your host, Jake Williams, for a very special, hence why we had a different theme song there, a very special of Off-Panel, Off-Topic, very different than what we usually have on the show. But I think you'll enjoy this. This is going to be part one of a 4-part series talking about all of the Batman Arkham games in chronological order. Hence, why you look at the title and it says Batman Arkham Origins. Because technically, chronologically, in the canon, this is the first Batman Arkham story. And I'm actually excited to talk about this game. I think for several reasons. I think, one, this game, it's a kind of a forgotten gem. You know, when most people think of the Batman Arkham games, they think of everything that Rocksteady made. And that's fine. That's okay to think that way. But the thing is, I think that this game gets the ugly step-sibling treatment because it's actually a very solid video game. And I hope that as I talk about this game and share my feelings on it, you'll enjoy it as well. Also, I want to be upfront with you and tell you that it's only just me talking, and this is going to be a long-form essay-style review. And if you're familiar with those on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. These are 30, 40-minute video essays of people just breaking down what they love about a game or a certain topic, and that's what I'm going to be doing here. Only difference is this is mostly just going to be audio-oriented. I will put up a video later and kind of edit some things in for the video, but for right now, this is mostly just going to be an audio feed, and again, I'm excited to talk about it. And Arkham Origins, this is one reason why I love doing this, because Arkham Origins just has a weird place in my brain because I vividly remember playing it. And the reason I vividly remember playing it, and I've mentioned it on Off-Panel, Off-Topic, Prime, the main channel, but the most vivid memory is just staying up all night playing it and falling asleep, crisscross applesauce, with my head not even resting on the back of the recliner chair that I was in. I was still sitting straight up. And that's exactly what it was. And Luke came in, woke me up, and then I immediately went back to playing the game. That's the most vivid memory of it. And it's also funny because I never owned the game. That was Luke's game, and it was at the time when I was part-time. He was going to school. We were still early 20. Well, I don't even think I was in my 20s yet. Yeah, I was just turned 20 when that game came out. So I was quite a young boy playing this game, and I have not played it since that first time playing it. I've never owned it, and I just never have. I tried to restart it a while ago, but I never did. And then the whole thought process for this series really just came from I just replayed the PS4 Spider-Man game and Spider-Man Miles Morales, which if you guys like Arkham Revisited, I recently played them, so they're still fresh in my memory. I can bring those back up, and we can talk about that as well. And get ready for Spider-Man 2, because I know that's what a lot of us are wondering is what Insomniac's going to do with that game. But regardless, I just played those, and then I remembered I had Arkham Asylum, I remembered I had Arkham Knight, and those are the only two I had, and I think I bought Arkham City years ago, but I might have sold it or whatever the case may be, but I got a copy of that, and it kind of snowballed of, like, what if I did a series, because I've always wanted to do something like this. I've always wanted to have a long-form discussion of a video game or movie. And I know that's kind of what we do with our reviews, But this is something that, I don't know, just feels a little different because I'm going to be, instead of doing an overview of the plot, I want to go, through all of the deep dive of everything I have. I will be totally honest with you. I did not 100% this game. I don't think my goal is to ever 100% these things. I think my goal is to try and get a new experience at it than I originally had, and that means going through and just playing some side missions or doing some things that I just didn't get do the first time around, or I think the second time around. Sorry, I didn't mean to blow into the mic there, but this will be my third playthrough of Arkham Asylum, and I also think my third playthrough of Arkham City as well, and I've only played through Arkham Knight once, but it's going to be an interesting experience, but it was a snowball effect of I just really wanted to play these games again, and then it kind of just led to let's make some content out of it, I guess, because that's just what we millennials do, right? So enough preamble, let's get into it. And right before we talk about the plot of this game, I do want to kind of talk about the backstory and how we got to this situation of Batman Arkham Origins, because it's kind of a weird game to have in this franchise, because you had the massively successful Arkham Asylum, and then the even more successful sequel, Arkham City, which, of course, we'll be talking about those in the next 2 episodes. But the level of hype going into Arkham Knight has got to be through the roof, right? And I think that there was just, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but there was also that panic between Warner Brothers and, just the Batman licensing of people. This is too long of a gap between Arkham City and Arkham Knight, which, by the way, is only 4 years. So to most people, that's okay, but WB really wanted that. So a little bit of background for Batman Arkham Origins. By July 2012, Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, or WBIE, was planning Rocksteady Studios' next Batman game as a prequel based on the Silver Age of comic books, featuring Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and The Flash. And that game would explore the first confrontation with the Joker, and with the release date no later than 2014. So what's interesting about this is I want to know more about the Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and The Flash. So they were trying to get Rocksteady to do a prequel Batman game, but it also involves the Justice League, which might have been kind of the genesis for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Or because there's some of that in this game where it kind of looked like that's where Rocksteady was heading, was Suicide Squad, and then the Justice League. I don't know, but I would have been interested to see what kind of game that would be, and I don't really know if that works that well in the Arkhamverse. Honestly, they're gonna say that Kill the Justice League, and they are saying that it is a continuation of the Arkhamverse. So this is after Arkham Knight, so there's no Batman. Spoilers for Arkham Knight, I guess. We haven't even got there, and I'm already spoiling that. But I just wonder what they were what that process was. But nevertheless, that's not the game we got, obviously. So development of Batman Arkham Origins began in late 2011 by Canadian development studio WB Games at Montreal, or as some of you know them now as just WB Montreal. And the game was announced on April 9th, 2013. The plot was partly inspired by the comic book series Batman Legends of the Dark Knight and the graphic novel Batman Year One, detailing the first year of Batman's career, with Arkham Origins described as a Year 2 story. Which they do mention in the story that you've been Batman for 2 years, so you're not completely inexperienced, but if still rough around the edges Batman. And honestly, I think that, and I'll talk about this more when I get into the plot of it, but I think that's probably one of my favorite aspects of this game, is just playing with a young, angry Bruce Wayne that's not as quite disciplined as we see him in the rest of the Arkham games, because that's a veteran, more experienced Batman. And that just seems something I would like. Also, parts of the plot, such as Batman's relationships with Joker, Gordon, and the game's Christmas setting, were partially inspired by Batman the Man Who Laughs, Batman Turning Points, and Batman the Long Halloween. Game director Eric Holmes had this to say about developing a prequel. The Batman of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City was comparable to his comic book counterpart, a fully formed, experienced character. Arkham Origins could explore our aspects of the character, such as his lack of experience and greater vulnerability. The game was to be considered 80% complete by January 2013, and WB Montreal used the remaining development time to tweak the final product. So, yeah, we can already see that there was just something different, and this is what's so weird about this game. I think that, you know what, I'll save it for when I give the full thoughts after that. Let's just jump into the plot. So the plot of Arkham Origins takes place 2 years after Bruce Wayne becomes Batman. The game starts with taking control of Batman as he stops a prison break at Blackgate. This eventually leads to a boss fight with Killer Croc, and after you defeat Croc, he tells you that he's one of 8 assassins out to kill Batman. So this first level is also something that I really enjoy, which, by the way, I'm going to probably talk about this a lot throughout the whole course of this episode, but Christopher Drake's soundtrack absolutely fucking smacks. It is so good, and it's so epic. Even the title menu, like, honestly, just let it, if you want to go out and play this game, which you should, because I'm going to spoil the plot, so if you want to play it, please stop listening, go play it, then come back. Or watch, however you consume this content. Anyway, I'm rambling. No, just, if you play it, seriously, just sit on the menu. Just let it play. And you'll just hear how epic the soundtrack is. And I would recommend, if you can, play with headphones and just fully embrace this score, because the score is just fantastic in this game. And I think that it gets set up so well in this first sequence, because when you hop into Blackgate, there's a really great moment of, you'll notice in this game, people don't necessarily believe you exist, because you've only been on the job for 2 years. So people think you're a giant bat. Some people think, the usual thing of how people view Batman if he hasn't been around forever. And it does such a great job of setting up how he uses fear. And again, I think that, and we'll talk more, obviously, when we get to Arkham Knight, but I think this game smartly does tie in very well to the other 3 games. And that's why there's always this confusing feeling about it, because it could exist on its own as its own Batman game, 1. 2, it doesn't necessarily need to exist inside the Arkhamverse, but 3, it adds more to the Arkhamverse, because this game is very much about fear. Asylum is about fear. City's about fear. They're all about the fear, and in this game kind of has that feel of it, and it has it early on in the game, because there's a thug beating up the warden, and as you're coming in, the guy that he's confronting is freaking out because you see the shadow of yourself on the wall, and you see how imposing of a figure you look like, and that's such a cool feeling of, like, you get this moment of, like, okay, I'm back in the saddle, I'm Batman again. Because, again, by the time we've played this game, we've had 2 other Arkham games, so we kind of know how this works, and we'll definitely touch on that combat. So the game starts with you taking control of Batman as he stops the prison break as Blackgate, as I mentioned. After the Croc fight, you go back to the Batcave, and then you find out more about the identities of the other assassins, which actually is a really cool clip. It's a little bit long, but stick with me, because I think this really sets up how cool this game really is.
Assassins, sir? As in more than one?
That's right.
And you heard this from the mouth of a crocodile, man?
His name is Killer Croc. He's already behind bars.
Oh, I pity his cellmate.
I don't. Let's see what else is on the drone's hard drive.
Each of them gets one of these envelopes. I need them delivered tonight.
They're all hired killers, the best in the business. Black Mask isn't messing around. Slade Wilson, Deathstroke, former military, subject of a failed medical experiment.
Failed, you say?
Garfield Linz, aka Firefly, burns on 90% of his body. His obsession is going to be his end.
How unlike anyone I know.
Here's a face I don't recognize. Copperhead. Strange. These reports reference a male, not a female.
14 escapes, huh? Well, you won't forget nada. What the?
Floyd Lawton, aka Deadshot. Says here he's an expert sharpshooter.
How on earth?
Suspected of many assassinations. Dangerous, but reckless. Street tough named Lester Baczynski. Calls himself Electrocutioner.
Shocking.
Shiva. Her skill is unmatched. Gotham. Why would he be taking money as a hired killer?
Is that Warden Joseph?
Must be how Black Mask got inside the prison. He uses torture for intimidation and entertainment.
8 assassins after your head. What are you going to do?
I'm going to find out who is operating this drone. Make them tell me what they know. Then I'm going to find Black Mask and put an end to this.
So what I love about that clip, and I know I let it play a little long, and I could have cut out more of the fight sequences that, again, would be better if it were just video, but you audio listeners, I understand, but I think it adds to a little bit of theater of the mind of what we're dealing with. But I think that is such a great sequence to kind of set you up with this game. And the game itself has a great plot. It's what you want in an action movie or what you want in these kind of stories. It's a ticking clock. It's Christmas Eve. They have to kill Batman that night. And I know that's kind of an issue that's been a running theme with these games and everything being one night. And I would argue that it works for the most part, and we'll get to the other things about that. But this is another theme of the Arkham games is this is all in one night. But that ticking clock gets that extra bit because now you know there's 8 assassins. So you know there's 8 possible bosses in this game that you're going to be dealing with. And I think that's a brilliant way to start it up. Also sets up the arrogance of Batman a little bit and sets up his confidence as his ability to, fight the assassins and win and be done with it. So this is also when the game starts to open up because then we leave the Batcave and go out on our mission. So on your way to the GCPD, you're interrupted by the Riddler, or just Enigma in this game, not quite the Riddler yet. But he sets up what you will be doing eventually with the most wanted side missions, which I'll talk about after I finish this plot. So you're directed to find the Penguin because he knows where Black Mask is, and Penguin is in an abandoned ship where he runs a casino called the Final Offer. And I will say it's a cool thing to have this setting of this level being on an abandoned ship. It's really cool, but I gotta say there's parts where I definitely got turned around in this game, which might be a problem of mine. I don't know. Maybe I'm just so used to the latter 2 games with Arkham City and Arkham Knight. And yes, this game has an open world too, but not being in a lot. I don't know how to explain it, but it just feels like that one section reminds me a lot of Arkham Asylum. And as I'm playing through Arkham Asylum now, I'm noticing I'm getting turned around a lot. And I think that's just, if you want me to be really successful at a Batman game, just leave me outside, apparently. But I love the setting, and I love how they do all of this sequence with Penguin, because I didn't quite remember it being a significant. It's not a huge chunk of this game, but I was surprised how much this story moves through this. Like the main story, if you just mainline it, I couldn't tell you how many hours offhand. I would say probably 8 to 10, and I'm being probably a little generous. I would say altogether, I think with finishing all the, not 100%ing it, but finishing all the most wanted side missions, not getting all the data collections or all the Blackgate prisoners, I would say I probably put in about 22 to 24 hours. So this game can move at a clip. If you're just playing the main storyline, this will move rather quickly. So before you can confront Penguin, you get to fight your first assassin. Yay! You get to fight Electrocutioner, and honestly, it's the most surprising and funniest thing of the Arkham games.
You just saved me a lot of trouble coming here, Batman. I'm gonna kill you. Then I'm gonna jumpstart your heart. And kill you again.
I'm looking for Black Mask. Where is he?
I ain't here to talk. I'm here to kick your ass.
This is your last chance.
You're about to be taught a lesson in pain. Name yourself after an animal, and you're gonna get eaten.
Who wants to show me where the penguin is?
Okay, so again, a little bit more theater of the mind for the audio people. Essentially, what happens is when you enter the final offer, when you finally get a chance to confront Penguin, you end up in a fight pit because they gamble on everything in the final offer because it's not really a legal casino anyway. And I leave that clip in because it's so hilarious because, as you heard, it's this build-up. It's this epic confrontation. He's one of the 8 assassins. It's obviously going to be your typical boss fight. And you literally, when you hit the strike button, it literally cuts to a cutscene of you dropping him down in an awesome jumping jumping drop kick. It's amazing. And then you have that moment that I left at the end where he says, "Who wants to tell me where the penguin is?" It's just fantastic. And it's not something you usually see in most games like superhero games or even these Arkham games, of that ability to completely subvert your expectation of what that was going to be. You heard it. It was a build up to this epic fight, and it ends with one punch, or one kick, I should say, and it's fantastic. So after you make your way through the final offer, after that fight, you got to find Penguin. You get into Penguin's penthouse, and then that's when shit really hits the fan. And I love this sequence, and I remember the Deathstroke fight. Yes, Deathstroke's here. I remember this very vividly. That's the first thing I remember when I booted up this game, was thinking about getting to that part, because I remembered how difficult it was, but how fun and challenging and interesting it was. And I'll mention this later, when I give my final critique, but I think it bears repeating. I will go out on a limb and say this. I think, again, I haven't beat Arkham City or Arkham Asylum, and again, I know that Arkham Knight doesn't really have boss fights, but I can tell you right now, after playing through this game again, I think this game still has the best boss fights, because there's so much thought and flair put into it. Everything all these games feel cinematic and have these special feels to each character, but I just think Arkham Origins does it differently, and I think this is an example because Deathstroke shows up, and it sets up the best boss fight in the series. And it's a fun way of using the mechanics in a little bit different way. So the whole time you're fighting Deathstroke, you're actually the camera's pulled in tight. Not quite like a fighting game, but it's still, the camera's pulled in tight, and it's just you and Deathstroke. There's no other henchmen that they could throw in as like little things that pull aggro and take you away from the boss. No, it's just a straight up mano-a-mano one-on-one fight, and that is something we don't see typically in the Arkham series. When there's a boss fight in the Arkham series, it's usually a Predator stealth mission and fighting, taking out other henchmen and then taking them out, and we'll talk about the Freeze one when City comes up, but things like that where you have to change tactics, and those are great. Or there's I'm seeing a lot of it in Asylum right now, but there's still that moment in this game. Don't get me wrong, but there is still that moment of, okay, there's the boss over there. I'm gonna fight him, take him out. This is the first level of it. So that's done, but now they're going to add in some more characters. I mean, shit, they do that in the Bane fight. The Bane fight is another Titan-style fight where you're dodging and throwing a batarang at him, and you're also trying to take out other enemies. So to have a change like that is awesome, and it's kind of frustrating. I can already tell, without even playing the other ones, that it's going to be something that I just wish... I just wish they did more of is do that. And I think it's not only those Arkham games. I think it's the superhero genre as a whole. I think there's too much focus on spectacle, and I think we need to get back down to like showing these close-in fights and choreography, and that's what we get a lot of with this Deathstroke fight. And you're not just hitting the counter button, you're also timing your counters, and that's something. And again, as we play through, maybe I'll see it in other games. But as I can remember, I think this was the only game to incorporate that style of approach to boss fights. Now, when you fight like Blade, people with like machetes and stuff in the other games, yes, you do time the dodge, unlike this game where you just hold the button. But in Arkham City and Night, you actually have to time your dodges with that. But it's really amped up in this, and just like every other boss fight, there's 3 layers, but it's really cool. When he uses a remote grapple, shoots this bomb at you, and when you can stop that motion and then pull him with the bat claw and then run up and do this clothesline move, it's an awesome animation, and it just really shows you how strong Batman can be and how he could really fuck people up. And it's real fun. And also, I love at this point because you're fighting him and he's hitting you with the sword and you use your gauntlets and fight. Eventually, you take his sword from him and, you win the fight. And it's such a fun reward. And when you win, if you're like me and you died a few times, when you actually can get it right and nail it, it's fucking rewarding. And that's such a big compliment to this game's boss fight designs, where a lot of them felt rewarding. And we also get the new gadget that's exclusive to this game. It's the remote bat claw, which I abused the hell out of in stealth missions, and I know a lot of people did too, but it is what it is. But yes, shout out to the Deathstroke fight. After that fight, you try and go and get Penguin, and then Penguin escapes, but we get news that Black Mask has been murdered at Lacey Towers. So Batman travels to the towers and investigates the murder scene, piecing together that the victim was not Black Mask. Now, this is when we get the new mechanic that has existed in all the Arkham games. Because in Arkham Asylum, you use it as like a way to track like different DNA, like fingerprints or cigarette smoke or whiskey, like different things to track. Forensic things, and they do. I can't remember. I'll know when I replay it, obviously, but they do keep doing that throughout the series. This was the first time we incorporated the reconstructing a crime scene that you see in Arkham Knight, and I think what's interesting about them doing it in Arkham Origins, this is where there are a few things like the grapple boost, that just don't make sense to not have them. Like, why does he have them now in the prequel but doesn't have them later in his career? I don't know. It's weird. But one thing's cool about, and I just remember there's a point I wanted to get, and I forgot to mention it. But after the Deathstroke fight, you find out news about Black Mask. But if you pay close attention, you'll see all of the like cut marks and dings and nicks on your armor. And it's pretty cool. And that's existed in every Arkham game, but it's really cool to see how much armor he has in this game, which I think is an interesting choice narratively to say, like, he's still a pretty damn good fighter, but he's not the Batman we know in Arkham Asylum. So that's why in Arkham Asylum he has more of like a sleek suit. It's more makes him lighter on his feet. He's a lot more confident in fights and not taking damage. I think if that was their choice narratively, I really like that choice, and I think it makes a difference. So, again, we as I mentioned, this is where we introduce the crime scene investigation stuff, which is cool. I like it a lot. I just think narratively it's kind of funny that it exists in this game, but not in Arkham Asylum or Arkham City. So this is where we find out that Joker's in this game. So we get the identification that there's some alias, there's some person named Joker was involved with this Black Mask situation. We also find out that he didn't kill Black Mask because he needs Black Mask to get into the Gotham Merchant Bank. But before that happens, we are confronted by some henchmen with rabbit masks, and they sing a little song, and it sounds like this. And it's super fucking creepy.
You were very cordially, you were very cordially invited to a party.
And it will be a grand affair.
Grand affair, and it will be a grand affair hosted by the Hatter.
We do hope that you can come.
You could come.
You can come. We do hope that you can come to share in all the joy.
So yeah, that was super weird and creepy, but and it's a good, again, adding to how it's really fun what they did in Origins. I think every character has a moment that you're interested and you're invested in it, and even if there's some aspects that I just don't like or disagree with, and I'll definitely talk about them when we get there. But I do think this game does a great job of setting up each side mission and different side character in a cool way. But we'll get to that later, that Mad Hatter side mission. So eventually you break into the GCPD to get files to obtain from the National Criminal Database to try to figure out more about Joker. And that's when you run into Captain Gordon at this time. Not Commissioner yet. And the corrupt SWAT unit trying to claim the bounty on Batman's head. We also meet Barbara Gordon for the first time, and you have a nice little interaction with her, and kind of plant the seeds of the Oracle stuff. And we'll get more on that, because that is tied to a side mission. So the database helps Batman uncover that Black Mask was kidnapped by Joker, who Batman believes intended to use Black Mask to access the Gotham Merchants Bank, which I mentioned earlier. At the bank, Batman encounters Black Mask, who is revealed to be the Joker in disguise. The Joker had replaced Black Mask days earlier, seizing his criminal empire and placing the bounty on Batman. I'm conflicted with this because I'm trying to experience this again for the first time. Now, I know it's impossible to really come into this for me to not know what's happening because I've obviously played the game before. But even so, I'm trying to come at this with fresh eyes and a different perspective. Even in the new perspective, I just wish they would have used both instead of one. And what I mean by that, Black Mask gets relegated to a side mission where Joker takes the main objective. So again, if you're someone that doesn't really care about the side stuff and really just wants to mainline the story, Black Mask is out. Like he's served his purpose, so now we're focusing on the Joker. I just think that they didn't need to have it be about Joker. And I understand that Joker is the main antagonist of this whole entire series, but this was an opportunity to do something a little bit different and do the Black Mask storyline. I wish they would have just stuck with it. And if they're going to have a Joker reveal, don't necessarily push Black Mask to the side. Maybe still have him incorporated in some way. And I understand that you really can't do that if you just say the Black Mask that did the bounty. Maybe Black Mask does do the bounty, and Joker didn't want to. He said, "Why claim it when I could just?" I don't know. The whole point is, it doesn't suck. It's not bad. It's not unearned. It's just, I kind of wish they would have just stuck with the Black Mask stuff. That being said, the Joker stuff that's in this game is great, and I love it, and I'm glad he's a part of the game. I don't know. I just feel like it could have been set up a little bit better, if that makes sense. So now we're in the hot pursuit of the Joker. As I said, he's the main dude now. Forget Black Mask. Put him in a side mission. But before we do, we do deal with Joker. We have a boss fight with Copperhead, and this is a pretty trippy fight because she poisons you, and so you had to fight multiple versions of Copperhead. Also, I do like how this game makes Copperhead female. I think it's an interesting gender flip, and it was kind of cool to see that. And her fight is fun. I love the constant disorienting feeling you have as you're poisoned, and you have to counter all these Copperheads, and you have to pick out the right one. And I think eventually she starts swiping at you with claws, so then that kind of lets you know, okay, so she's the main one I need to go after, the one that is doing the knife swipe stuff. But I really liked her fight, and it was really cool. I liked how they did this, how they and some are different. Like Shiva, for example, is a side mission. Deadshot is more of a side mission. So not every single assassin gets the full main storyline treatment, but when they do have them, it works incredibly well. And again, I still think this game right now, as I've only played the one, I'm going to tell you right now, I feel like this one has the best boss fights of the game. of the whole series, I mean. So now we're tracking the Joker to the Royal Hotel. Batman finds that he and his men have taken control of the building, filled it with explosives, and murdered the staff and taken the guests hostage. Yeah, so it's fucking great. Also, I noticed the antagonism of the Joker is great in this, where he's like, look what I've done. Because if you remember correctly, at the beginning of the game, we thought that Commissioner Loeb, which is a reference to Jeff Loeb, so that was nice. Commissioner Loeb was killed, we thought, by Black Mask. But of course, now that's Joker. And Joker points out, he goes, "What, you've been doing this whole gig for 2 years, and you haven't done anything. And in one night, I've killed the commissioner, taken over Black Mask's empire, sicked 8 assassins on you." Like, he makes a solid point. And then when, you go to this hotel and he murders the whole fucking staff and he's got everybody in he's got a good point. Just saying. So this is where he decides to give all the assassins a pep talk, saying, hey, you guys suck. You haven't killed Batman yet. And then he throws Electrocutioner out of the window because Electrocutioner is playing a video game of some kind. And he's like, hey, I got to make a thing. And yes, it's just as funny as him getting kicked. I love the fact that they just fucking job out Electrocutioner in this game. And they build him up to be this badass, and they just make him eat shit. It's kind of amazing. But not a complete waste, Electrocutioner, because Batman recovers his electric gloves. And I'll touch on this more later in this discussion, but yes, the electric gloves kind of the shock gloves give you a severe advantage because it turns into a situation where it's a non-blockable attack for your enemies, so it kind of makes you OP, and honestly, I'm okay with it. Because there's some times in this combat where I was like, all right, I just need to just punch the fuck out of everybody. That's my solution. So the assassins all depart except for Bane because he thinks that Batman is coming for the Joker. So Batman works his way through the building, eventually encountering Joker and fighting Bane for the first time. Make that known. This is only the first fight. And this is a good fight. It's a lot of fun. It manages to kind of harken back to, much like the Killer Croc fight, harken back to Arkham Asylum's Titan fights where you would have, again, a group of enemies, he stampedes at you, you throw the batarang, hits him, knocks him off track, and then you go in and fight him. And it has similar vibes of that, and it also reminds me of the first Bane fight in Arkham Asylum. So I think it was a nice little throwback to that. Really good fight. And it spills out into a building, and this is also where Alfred is kind of stepping in and being like, you got to call the fucking cops, man. I know you want to be this fucking badass Batman dude, but look, you got to get this shit figured out, so I'm calling the cops. And, of course, Batman's like, damn it, no! So the cops show up with a helicopter and attack, and then Bane's men have their own helicopter, and they're fighting back, and there's this whole fight. So, Alfred kind of screwed the pooch, I'm just saying. So, as Bane escapes by a helicopter, he fires a rocket at Joker, which shoots the Joker out of the building, and then it would send him falling from the hotel. And it looks like Joker's going to fall off the building, and of course, this is an origin story. We all know that Joker's not going to die in this game. So, Batman leaps off the side of the building and catches Joker. And this is when the story really shines to me. Because Joker gets apprehended, he goes to Blackgate Prison, and this is when we start to understand more of the Joker in this game, and kind of sets up what it's like in the rest of the other games, and of course he's examined by Harleen Quinzel. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip of why I love this sequence so much.
Okay, one more, and I need you to be serious for this one. Fate.
You want to know something funny? I used to think of fate as evil. Predetermined, not by some higher power, no, but by the rules of human nature. Tonight, it's all changed.
What's changed?
Have you ever had the feeling that your entire life has been building towards this one moment?
Is that how you feel?
Well, now, yes. Now I realize that all the battles, the bad days, the brutalities, it was all the hand of fate at work.
So now you see fate differently?
Absolutely. Now I understand there are no chance encounters. It was all meant to be. Everything leading up to who I've met tonight.
So you've met someone special?
Yes. And you might say it's changed everything.
Everything?
Absolutely.
So again, this establishes just how we feel, and when he's walking, he's dressed as this particular part of the whole conversation, because it's like a 6 or so minute sequence of kind of going through Joker's mind. But what we're seeing here, with Red Hood walking down and kind of going to the Killing Joke origin and that kind of story of it, and just seeing or hearing his affection for Batman, and he feels like it's fate that these two are going to tear apart Gotham. He just feels it in his bones. And it's also funny how they're establishing Harley and Joker's relationship in a fun way, again, making it seem like he's charming her, but also at the same time, she thinks he's talking about her, but he's talking about Batman. And it kind of sets up an interesting story of like saying that Joker's loves him. Joker's in love with him in a sense that he's everything I wanted. He's so much fun. And I love whenever they decide to tell that story about Joker and Batman, whenever it's done, I love the idea of Joker just loving Batman because he's like, you've given me purpose. I wouldn't have dressed up like this psychopathic clown if it wasn't for you. And I love you for it. And this continues to show it in this game. And I love that they went. So this is why I'm okay with incorporating him into this. Because one, Troy Baker does an amazing like younger Joker impersonation. Also, Roger Craig Smith is great as well as Batman. But I love that so much. It's really cool. So I'm going to do one more clip of this and really see how this drives it home. And again, I just brilliantly played by Troy Baker and just loved it so much.
It's like meeting someone I can actually relate to. Which, believe me, dear, I've never felt before. You understand? You're someone who's not afraid to let go and fall. Free falling, and I didn't pack a chute. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, I do.
I figured you would.
So, may I ask, who is this person?
Oh, someone very, very special. But whose real name I don't even know yet.
So again, we play with the idea of Harley slowly falling in love with Joker and setting up their relationship, but also having some fun with it. I really want to play that second one because, again, at the end of it, he's looking in the mirror, and how he envisions Batman isn't how we visit him. He visits him as this bat monster god-looking thing, and when he looks at him in the mirror, the reflection, when he looks at himself in the mirror, it's not Joker who's in the water. Sorry. It's a puddle, not a mirror. But he sees his reflection in the puddle, and it's not him, it's Batman. And it's just, that's the moment of him embracing, like, we're meant to be together. We're meant to do this. This is fate. And I never believed in this until I met you. So again, it's him falling in love with the idea of getting to destroy this city with Batman. So it's great. So now we cut back to the Batcave. Alfred finally airs his concerns for Batman, and then Batman lays down the law in a great speech delivered so well by Roger Craig Smith.
Master Bruce, stop! Master Bruce! Bruce, I will not in good conscience allow you to go. You're outmatched by these assassins.
What?
You're not some hardened vigilante. You're a young man with a trust fund and too much anger. You're in over your head, and I don't want this to be your end.
Alfred, who do you see when you look at me? The boy whose shoes you used to tie every morning? The teenager you drove to his first date? While you are here every night, I am out there. The only thing between the innocent and the predatory.
Be.
No, not maybe. I am. When the mugger or the thief stops to think twice, that is fear. That is what I am. That is why they hired assassins, because I am the reason the criminals breathe easier when the sun rises. So no, Alfred, I am not in over my head. Tonight will not be my head, but it will be theirs.
I love this sequence so much because, again, it really does kind of lay it all out there. Lays bare that there's still that fatherly connection between Bruce and Alfred. That's always been there in any form of Batman media, but it's nice to see this early Batman, this 2 years in, where he's like, hey, you're going to die. You're not, this isn't, you're not this vigilante you think you are. You're this trust fund kid and da-da-da. And the fact that he just shuts him down and goes like, no, I'm fucking doing what's right. I'm doing it. You don't know what this is. You don't know. Just it's really cool to see that. And it does also kind of make Bruce still look like the kid to Alfred, but that makes all the sense. So Batman locates Bane's headquarters, then discovers that Bane knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne, and he blows it all up, destroys all the evidence. So before we confront Bane again, the game remembers that Firefly is still in it, so he launches in oh yeah, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned Firefly at all in this whole thing. So even I forgot Firefly existed until this mission popped up, if I'm being totally honest. So Firefly is launching an assault on the Pioneer Bridge, forcing Batman and Gordon to work together and overcome the assassin and his bombs. Meanwhile, Bane breaks into the Batcave and beats Alfred nearly to death. We don't see this is off screen, but this is all happening while you fight Firefly. And honestly, the Firefly confrontation was a cool boss fight. I enjoyed it a lot. I wish, I don't know, the diffusing all three bombs section was like, there are aspects of this game, and I think that it isn't just this game's fault. I think it's a lot of games now where you really, and it's not even necessarily their fault. It's just, you have this certain thing where you're like, hey, when this game came out originally, this is a $60 game. We want to pack as much content as we can. And so I think for the most part, it's good. It's just there's definite times when it feels like padding. And before you fight Firefly, when you have to defuse the bombs, it just seems like, okay, let's do this thing. And unfortunately, that happens a lot in the side missions, but we'll get there. So you have the fight with Firefly, which is really cool, and has, again, to incorporate using different you have to use the glue grenade, which is a fun way of saying, hey, we get it. The freeze grenade doesn't show up till Arkham City, but we're going to have a narrative way to work around it. It's a glue grenade. Deal with it. So you have to incorporate that in your Batclaw and like different gadgets to defeat him, and it's great. It was a lot of fun. So Bane does that to Alfred. We find out when Batman goes to the Batcave, and then using the shock gloves, he remembers to what Electrocutioner said, being like, hey, I'll kill you, restart your heart, and kill you again. And he's like, aha! So then he charges up the gloves and resuscitates Alfred and saves him. But before he does, there's a really nice, tender moment where Batman thinks Alfred's is, well, when Alfred does die, and he looks at him and he says, I wish I had a clip of the line. But he looks at him and he says, don't blame yourself. And pretty much saying, do not put this burden of me going on yourself. This isn't your fault. And it's really cool. I need to stop saying really cool. I say that too much. It's a really nice, sweet, tender moment. And makes you happy when he brings him back. Because you don't want to see Alfred go. Even though, again, we know Alfred is in the other Arkham games. But regardless. So, this is also a part in the game when Batman finally says, you know what, you're right, Alfred. My lone wolf approach almost got you killed, so maybe you're right about that. So Batman works with Gordon and the GCPD to retake the prison, and then Blackgate. So then Batman is forced to fight Bane again, and this is the time that's my favorite part of the game. I love that, and this changed, because originally it was the Deathstroke stuff, but I think that this is my favorite part of the game because it's classic Joker, Batman scenario, and I love it so much. So this situation, when you fight Bane for the second time, This is where you had to fight him to death when Joker places himself in an electric chair that will automatically kill him unless Bane dies. So this is where we have the whole moral conundrum. So then we have the fight. Again, it's the usual Titan-style fight. Once you get Bane down, or get to a certain point, then Batman says, okay, I'm just going to have to shock him to death and then see if I can resuscitate him. So, I mean, which is honestly smart. I mean, what else? You got gloves that you know are capable of reviving people. Why not do it? So Batman uses the electric gloves to stop Bane's heart, and this makes Joker be like, all right, that works. Works for me. So now I'm going to go detonate these bombs around the city. So then Batman, by the way, this is one of my favorite bits where Gordon's there and he gets hit and Joker takes his gun in a scuffle and Joker runs away and then Gordon's like, you're going to kill Joker too? And he's like, hey man, I didn't kill this guy. I'm resuscitating him. He's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, that's not my style. Even though, I got to say, throughout all of these Arkham games, the level of bodily harm you give these henchmen, some of these motherfuckers ain't getting up. Just saying. So, Batman revives Bane. This is not a good idea because Bane is like, I'm not going to be thankful that you saved me, because he immediately grabs him by the throat, injects himself with the T1 version of Venom, which I'm pretty sure is Titan. I said that in my script, but I'm not sure if that's true or not. I apologize if it's not. But anyway, he injects himself with the T1, and that sets up its fight. Now, this is really cool because this is like a survival horror aspect to this game. And one thing I'm noticing as I'm playing through Arkham Asylum, and I think one of the reasons I love it so much, is that there's so much fear and intensity in Arkham Asylum, and it's like a horror game. And so we kind of have that aspect here. And it also reminds me of the Croc fight in Arkham Asylum, where there's so much venom pumped into Bane that he's this giant hulking monster, and you have to take him out before a certain amount of time. If you don't take him out within 10 minutes, then he gets the T1 and it makes him stronger and fucking knocks you into the wall and kills you. But anyway, it's an interesting fight because it's a lot of sneaking around, but it is kind of like the Mr. Freeze fight in Arkham City, where if you go and use the crate to sneak attack him, he'll rip apart the crates. So then you have to try and be a little more creative and, use the bat claw to hit the fire extinguisher to blind him for a minute and sneak behind him and attack him. And then once you do that, he hits you through a couple walls, chases you through, you turn around, you hit your remote bat claw, so it ties up his arms and it keeps him tied up as you take away his T1 venom, and he kind of just goes, weak Bane now. So yeah. I mean, what else can I say, right? So Batman finally defeats Bane. And then we find out Bane doesn't remember that Batman is Bruce Wayne, because it's also set up earlier that there is a condition that if you take too much venom that it can mess with your memory. So that's a nice way of them just writing themselves out of a corner, with Bane knowing his identity in this game, because then it's like, well, what about the other games when you know? They're like, no problem. Amnesia. It was one of the few times in the story I was like, all right. So, it is what it is. Now we've moved on. So now Batman fights his way to the Joker to the prison chapel, and this is where the game ends. So this is where we learn that Joker's pissed because Batman did revive Bane and saved him and resuscitated him. So then Joker proceeds to try and goad Batman into killing him, and then, of course, that doesn't work. You subdue him and put him down, and then that is the end of the game. And then we also hear at the end of the game, in the credits, there's a radio interview saying that Quincy Sharp says he will lobby to reopen Arkham Asylum, and that's how we get the tie-in to the first game. And then in a post-credit scene, which I guess is ignored at this point, Deathstroke is in prison, and Amanda Waller approaches him to join the Suicide Squad. Now, maybe Deathstroke shows up and kill the Justice League, but I doubt it. And that is a wrap on the main story. So quick recap, quick mini review of the plot. I know that took up most of the time here, but I thought for the most part it was a pretty satisfying story. It wasn't, and yes, there are moments where we could deal with flashbacks very briefly of Thomas and Martha Wayne's death. we kind of deal with that a little bit, but they definitely lean into it more in Arkham Asylum, which I'm glad they didn't do as much in this game. But, chronologically, narratively, it makes sense. It manages to work. I didn't just make a joke about it. The Bane thing was an issue. I guess they found a way to write themselves out of it. But overall, I really loved how they established this Joker's relationship with Batman by tying it to the traditional relationship that we know, but also adding a little spin to it was nice. Again, I just wish we could have got more of Black Mask. It is what it is. So now I want to move on to talking about the side content or the most wanted. I'll break down each one. Not going to be super elaborate like the main plot, but I'll kind of just go through what it is. So you first find out about Anarchy, and I'm not going necessarily in alphabetical order, but I just kind of wrote these how I wrote them. There's no rhyme or reason. So you first find out about the most wanted mission for Anarchy after you leave the final offer and after you finish with the Deathstroke fight. He sends you a transmission, and honestly, I got to give WB Montreal credit. I kind of agree with Anarchy sometimes.
Oppressed citizens of Gotham, your cries for help have been heard. I am Anarchy, voice of the people, here to save you from the plague of corruption that now infests this once proud city. Those hired and elected to keep us free and safe won't lift a finger. And why would they? They've been bought and paid for, encouraged to turn a blind eye. If they won't act, I will. At dawn's first light, the sources of Gotham's ruin will be destroyed. Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming of propaganda and consumerist garbage.
See, especially that ending was the consumerist propaganda and capitalist garbage, I think is what he said. But no, I like this character because it's a little bit more unique, and it's not usually something we see in these Arkham games. But he then tells you that he has placed 3 bombs around Gotham, and it's up to you, Batman, to defuse them. So after speaking with an anarchist located just above the projection that you see, that you literally, I remember this because it's like right as you get out of the final offer. It's not that far from where that is. So you speak with him. He tells you where the bomb is, so then you got to go track down the bomb, defuse it, and you fight a bunch of anarchists. That's what they call it. You fight them, beat them up, and then you defuse the bomb. And then a second anarchist is located in the Diamond District. You fly over there, or fast travel, however you get there. You go to Diamond District, and it's the same thing. You got to go find a bomb at Amusement Mile, and then you have to defeat the goodness gracious, anarchists and defuse the bomb. So that's pretty much the missions. And honestly, the challenge for me wasn't necessarily the fights with the henchmen. It was just getting there on time. And especially because before I started playing this game, I was playing Arkham Knight a little bit, and that's what kind of inspired me to go back and play all of them. And the grapple boost in Arkham Knight is just fucking insane. Like, you can shoot over the buildings almost if you time it right. In this game, you can't do that. And so, you still have like the dive and glide where you can kind of, keep your momentum going by diving and then raising up. Like, that still exists, but it's still a bitch to get there in time. And honestly, that's the hardest part. So after you defeat the all that stuff in the Music Mile, then we get a third and final bomb. And then you gotta meet the guy in Coventry to say, hey, this is where it is, and then you fly over to that section, and then of course you take that out, defuse it, do what you do, rinse and repeat. So from there, you get information from Anarchy to meet him at the Solomon Wayne Courthouse, which is something that I wish I would have finished before I did this, but I didn't. There's a whole other side thing with Solomon Wayne, and I should have looked into it. Whatever. So you meet him in the courthouse. You fight him. It's your standard fight, as I was talking about earlier. There's a bunch of There's a first wave of just henchmen, then the second wave is henchmen and Anarchy, and he's got like a shock baton, so you got to dodge him and that and everything. And then you fight, and then eventually, when you fight Anarchy, you knock off his mask, and then you find out that he's a kid, and you're like, hey, you got the right idea, but you're just misguided, and then whatever. So you tie him up without the mask, you find out he's a kid, and you're like, well, that sucks. I just beat up a... Doesn't look good for Batman beating up a minor. Anyway, overall, I really like Anarchy's Most Wanted just because I think he was an interesting character. I wish they could have done more with him in other Arkham games, but I think, honestly, Rocksteady just looked at it and was like, who cares about Anarchy? And I understand, but I do like that he gets a little shine in this game. And honestly, some of the stuff he was saying, kind of based. I'm just saying. Just saying I liked it. All right, so let's go into Deadshot. Oh, man. We'll get started on Deadshot. So, early on in the game, I want to say after you deal with Enigma and you're on your way to GCPD, you get a radio emergency broadcast. Once you leave, after you identify the assassins, once you leave, that's when you get it. So you track the broadcast, and you'll do an investigation, a crime scene recreation, to find out that 4 cops were killed with 1 bullet. And, of course, this turns out to be Deadshot, who ricocheted the bullet and did all crazy tricks because he's Deadshot, So he took out the corrupt SWAT guys that were trying to kill Batman and claim the bounty. So when you eventually find out where it's Deadshot, you find out he's holed up in the Gotham Merchant Bank with a hostage. Which, honestly, I'm glad I did this after I finished the main story, because then I didn't have to go through all the bullshit of doing all the graphic sequence password guessing game, and all of it was already done. So I just walked into this part where he's at and fought him. Made my life so much easier. So once you get to the bank, it's a big Predator stealth mission. You have to take out Deadshot's henchmen before attacking him. Then after attacking him, you hide again because there's a whole new other wave of henchmen. So it's kind of like the usual fight, but instead of combat, it's Predator missions. So then you finish off the boss fight when you take out yet another wave of armed henchmen. Yeah, I know. And this one took me a long time. So after the third wave, you don't necessarily have to take out everybody in the third wave, because I didn't. I think there was still one guy, and he was like, well, if he took out Deadshot, I'm fucked, so I surrender. That's pretty much what he said. I'm paraphrasing. But yeah, all you have to do is sneak up behind Deadshot and take him out, do the silent takedown, and that ends the mission. You win. You beat Deadshot. Problem is, I didn't know that for the first 3 or 4 times I did it. So I was very confused when I was like, why do I keep fucking failing this mission? And then I found out then. So, yeah. I'm just glad I didn't, as I said, I didn't play this until after the main story, and I did because I am terrible at this. Although I did cheat and use the remote back claw. Oh my god, the remote claw solved so many problems, but even then I still died multiple times because I'm terrible at stealth. Deadshot was a nice change of pace in a sense that, yeah, it's just like every other one when it's just, okay, it's a big room of enemies that I had to take out and then take out the boss. But the fact that it was a stealth mission and added some variety to it. Also, I loved it when you went into detective mode. It shows his like when you fight snipers, it shows the red dot, but instead of a straight line, it's a zigzag all over the place. So it shows that he's going to kind of shows you that he's going to trick shot you, and I don't know. I thought it was a cool little detail. I enjoyed it, but again, it runs into the same problem that the Anarchy mission does. In this, it's a lot of samey. Dead Space, Deadshot, not so much again because of the stealth, but the DNA of the sameness is still there. So now let's move on to Mad Hatter, which, woo boy. So this is probably the most unique, most wanted mission, and I think probably my favorite. So after the investigation at Lacey Towers, as I mentioned earlier, you have the creepy singers that sets up the Mad Hatter stuff. I actually did this immediately after the invite. I was like, I want to know this one. Because, when I first played this, I kind of just mainlined it. So I didn't really play the side missions. So I was like, ooh, this is fun. I didn't get to play this. And so I went and ran off and did that. So Hatter has kidnapped his Alice, in air quotes, and he wants you to find him. So once you find the hideout, you have to find a room full of henchmen, and then you make a move on Hatter. So unlike the other ones, you don't beat him up in the fight, which is nice. A little change of pace. I like that. Instead, we kind of play with the format of how you would do a most wanted mission. And again, I really like it a lot. And how they do that is when you go to make a move on the Hatter, he is standing in front of Grandfather Clock and then hits you with some mind control or some really, really good at LSD. We don't know. The jury's still out. So either way, he sends you to this other reality that's Wonderland, and you have to figure out puzzles to escape. And once you do break free, you can break free from mind control. You take out the Mad Hatter. I loved it because, again, it was the most unique, most wanted mission of the game. I think it was one of the more unique missions of the game overall, not just that particular sequence or just not that particular stuff with the side missions, but it was very reminiscent of the Scarecrow stuff from Arkham Asylum. And again, when it does something different like that, it's awesome. When they really go out of their way to make a compelling side mission, it's great. But the problem is most of these side missions just feel like padding. And while some of them are, again, tied to the main narrative, they don't have the impact that this one does, because this one is so different. It's not just, yes, you fight a room full of enemies, but after that, you have to do some puzzles. You have to figure some things out. You have to, again, do the Scarecrow stuff, and because the building that you're trying to scale up to, the grandfather clock that you're inside and you're trying to scale up and out of, which, again, as I say that sentence, it's pretty fucking trippy, which, congratulations, I really like it. As you do that, the level is changing to you, and I really think that's cool versus, again, just taking out a room full of thugs and then taking out the enemy. So it's what I want from these side missions. I know that you can't do that with every one of these most wanted missions, but that's what I want when I have these side missions in these Arkham games. And if I remember, I really liked the ones in Arkham City, and I hope I'm right on that. I know that I liked the Arkham Knight ones. The only problem I had with the Arkham Knight most wanted stuff was, again, they weren't boss fights, and at least with these and the Arkham Origins, they end in boss fights. So let's move on to Shiva. So Shiva's most wanted starts after Batman discovers a baby crying on a crib. Find out it's just a recording, so it lures Batman in, and Shiva strikes. She tells Batman that there's an innocent man about to be killed, and it's part of a test. So once you arrive, that's the little thing on your map, you go over there. So once you arrive, you see it's a cop being strung up above an electrified pool. You have to figure out the puzzles to save him and turn off the electric shit. So each side of the situation. So the room is an electrified puddle in the middle of the room, and you have to go to the left side and right side to hit a switch or whatever the fuck. I think that's what it is, if I remember correctly. And you have to free him by turning off the electrified pool. So each side has a puzzle, and once you complete it, you have to fight off some ninjas. And it's this, after you fight Deathstroke, you get the ninja henchman type where you have to time your counters. That's essentially what you're doing with Shiva. So being that I played this after I beat the game, I knew how these kind of mechanics worked, so it wasn't a difficult fight when I fought the ninjas. So this leads you to another location that's another part of the test, and this time it's a crime scene of a dirty cop killed by Shiva. And then you tell her, like, hey, what the fuck, you killed a cop? And she's like, well, he was a shitty cop. And he's like, yeah, but you know that's not my style. She's like, you don't fucking roll with the league. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, man. This is over an hour in, and I'm losing my mind. So then, yeah, Shiva says, whatever. Come to Wonder Tower for the final test. And, of course, it's a fight between Shiva and a league of assassin ninjas. And then you beat Shiva, and the mission ends. I like the references to the past. I know there's a DLC called Initiation where you find out that they train together. So they have ties to Roz, as I call him, but these games call him Raish. Ties to Ra's al Ghul and the League of Assassins. Interesting. But again, this is kind of a meh side mission. I mean, again, I keep saying it again. Most of these side missions are the same shit, to be honest with you, and it's a little down. That's going to be in my cons for sure. It's just like the Mad Hatter is really the standout. I think narrative-wise, Shiva has some interesting things going on, but I mean, it's all kind of meh, including Penguin. So Penguin is literally just finding arms caches that he's trying to sell, and then you use the disruptor gadget, and it blows them up the crates, and you're done. So my guess on the thought process of the Penguin side missions was that we've seen plenty of Penguin, not only in this game, but in Arkham City. You've seen plenty of Penguin. I just think that there's no other reason to have a confrontation with him, is my guess. I don't know. The only reason to play this is for Barb, where she gives you some fun. She gets on the radio frequency and talks to you, and it's fun, and you have that little back, or not really back and forth, it's one-sided, but it's a nice way of saying, like, okay, so this is how we're going to set up Oracle and the Batgirl stuff and all that, and it's fine, but that's something that you really don't need to go through the tedium of doing this side mission to get it. It's really not worth it. Similar to that, Black Mask. After you reveal the Joker, after the Joker reveal, you get Black Mask's Most Wanted missions, and it's pretty much the same as Penguin's. You find the Sionis drugs stashes and destroy them, and once you do, you get a call from Black Mask to meet him at a church, and then you do, and it's a big brawl between him and his men. Win the fight, tie him up, it's over. Same thing as Penguin. Meh. Again, filler. Like, that just sucks. And then we also, after you defeat Bane for the final time, a Most Wanted pops up for Bird, who's the right-hand man to Bane and his gang. Goodness gracious. Just like Black Mask and Penguin, you're tracking down an item. This time, it's a T1 or Titan. I think T1 becomes Titan in this, if I could be wrong. But instead of blowing things up or, breaking things, you actually just had to stop a big gang fight both times. And then that will eventually lead you to finding where Bird is, and then you fight Bird. And that's it. Filler. Black Mask, Bird, and Penguin are just filler Most Wanted missions. You could honestly skip them and be just fine. Just fine. So then the last one that I did, also after the Bird stuff, I got a call from Gordon, who was like, hey, there's 20 Blackgate prisoners. Can you go capture them? To which I was like, this is why being Batman would be a shit job. One, you're not getting paid. Yeah, you're rich, so it doesn't matter. But two, these motherfuckers are calling you all hours of the night. You're busy off doing all this other shit, and they're like, hey, by the way, can you capture these prisoners? Because you took out a bunch of cops that were corrupt, so I don't really have manpower tonight. It's like, man, fuck off, Gordon. Fuck off. That's why I never get any sleep. So anyway, I did save the Riddler Enigma stuff for last because it was the most tedious of all the Most Wanted missions. After you find the hideout for Enigma, he informs you that to reach him, you have to take down a bunch of transmission relays in each district. There's 10 in each district. As an added bonus, if you get this game's version of Riddler trophies, which are data packs, you gain access to a secret room. I didn't do the secret room because I gave up after finding all the transmission relays, taking them out, and then going back to Riddler's hideout to finish the Most Wanted mission, only to have it say, yeah, I stopped him. Like, I literally put in the passcode to stop him from spreading all this, incriminating information and data all over Gotham, and that's it. Nothing else. Because they have to justify not apprehending Riddler, I guess. I don't know. Why are the Arkham games so focused on making Riddler the most tedious motherfucker? Maybe that adds to him being a villain because he's so goddamn annoying. And it's not even just the things he says, it's just the stupid fucking trophies. And then I forgot, as I'm playing through Asylum, you know what? Forget it. We're going to wrap this up. I'm just going to keep bitching about Riddler. So let's go to the pros and cons of Batman Arkham Origins. I'm just going to run through the good things first. The story might be the best in the series. Jury's still out on the other ones, but as of right now, I think going back and thinking about it, and I always remember there were several beats of this story that stuck out of my brain, and this is the first time I've played this game in 9 years, almost 9 years, which is also insane to think about, but might be the best in the series. It is a joy seeing these characters interact with Batman for the first time, and I love the people still reacting to him as if they didn't know he was real or not. You know, that usual stereotypical thing, like, was he a giant bat or whatever? I think that it works for me, and I enjoy it. Christopher, as I mentioned earlier, Christopher Drake's soundtrack fucking slaps. It's amazing. The voice acting is great. Troy Baker's Joker is a great young version of Hamill. I also love Roger Craig Smith. He has the right amount of intimidation, but also doesn't have that hard, grisly voice of Kevin Conroy. So I like it. And again, boss battles are fucking great, and they are the game's strength. But let's get into the cons, because no game is perfect, right? The cons, the combat system. It isn't bad by any means. It's strictly just the free flow combat that the Arkham series is known for, and it takes advantage of that brilliant system. However, this version of free flow is focused on timing so much that it is really hard to say in a combo or set up combos, and I think it's mostly because the game goes out of its way to... They said they would never touch the combat, but they want to add different enemy types. I think all those different enemy types, while they implore you to do different strategies and mix things up in combat, I just think it was hard to fully fight back and defend myself and set combos at the same time. I don't know. And that could also be my shittiness of the game, but I also just feel like it wasn't as smooth as Rocksteady's games and how it was implemented there. The Predator system is a similar beast. It doesn't do a whole lot to differentiate itself from the other games, and I think maybe that is because narratively they can't because of the prequel setting. I don't know. The only difference is that I love it because I'm terrible at stealth, and it's a lot easier than the other games, mostly because of that remote claw kind of making you OP. Other than maybe the Mad Hatter mission, yeah, the Most Wanted stuff is pretty by-the-numbers filler, busy work that you really don't need to do. So the question that I'm going to ask with every game in this series as I wrap it up, it's simple. Does it hold up? For me, yes. Despite its shortcomings with combat or the heavy use on the previous system, I still think I had a great time playing this game. I think the best thing about the game is the story, especially the way that the game focuses on the Batman-Joker relationship, Batman and Alfred, just the core relationships of the Batman Arkhamverse and Batman in general. And learning the Batman starts open his circle and build his relationships with Oracle and Gordon and Alfred is always nice to see and unfold. And I think for that, it does hold up. It's, again, the game is 9 years old, but almost 9 years old. But I think the systems that are implemented that are so core to this Arkham series, I think it still makes these games timeless. And I'm also coming to that perspective with playing Arkham Asylum, which is a game that is, I think, going to be 13 years old this year. 2009 is when it was released. So, yeah, I just think that this is another example of, yes, this holds up because these games almost can be timeless for me. And that's how I feel about it. So that's it. That is the end of part 1 of Arkham Revisited, Batman Arkham Origins. I really hope you guys like this series. I hope you are feeling that itch to hear someone gush about Arkham Origins all over again. I still feel like it is kind of the forgotten stepchild of the series, especially the fact that we have no remaster for it, while Arkham Asylum had been remastered twice. Arkham City has been remastered twice, and then rebundled twice. Because they put the Return to Arkham remaster right before Arkham Knight came out, but didn't put Arkham Origins in there. And then, of course, you have the Arkham Collection, Arkham Trilogy, and it's just Rocksteady's games. They still acknowledge them in the lore and the canon, but won't acknowledge them for a remaster, which is just silly to me. Anyway, thanks for listening or watching, and we'll be back next time for Batman Arkham Asylum.